I was not expecting it to be this packed, so I'm really happy everyone's here. So we are the Literary and Scientific Society, and tonight's motion is this house believes marriage is an outdated concept. So it's really lovely to have everyone here. So again, just some announcements and stuff beforehand. So if I can find that. So, brief overview of what Literific is. We are a debating society, obviously. And for us, I'm going to introduce every member of council, first of all. So we have, it's a lot harder whenever there's 20 people in the room. We have Jamie Warren, who's our treasurer. So if you want to say a few words there, Jamie.
So I, as treasurer, I sort of deal with all the financial aspects of society, including taking up membership. So if anyone wants to sign up, it's a fiver. Can see me at the end of the debate or pub. Okay.
We have Sam, who's our events officer, if you want to go.
Hello, I'm Sam, I'm the events officer.
Thanks very much, that's right. We have the lovely Josie, who is our secretary. If you want to say something.
As secretary, I take the minutes for the meetings and I read out the meetings minutes from last week, so that's essentially all I do.
We have Ellie, and they are our internal convener.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I make the term card and I try to convince each and every one of you to sign up and speak for debates.
We have Talsha, who is our external officer.
I am Talsha. I convene externally as the external convener. So if you ever want to do an outside of Queen's competition, just contact me, please.
We have, I'm looking for someone that I can see. Oh, sorry, we have James Orchin, who is our training officer.
Hi, okay.
Yes.
Well, this is news to me. Yeah, I'm the training officer, so I meant to be the nice, welcoming face for all the new people. So, you know, as I said last week, God have to.
And we have Ryan Hoey, who is our social officer.
So it's my job to get you to go to the pub after the debate, which for your information is Lavery's, and we've got a private room, so yeah.
I don't know if you'll fit in, but hopefully we've got the whole of the outside as well, so you can use that. Have I forgotten anyone? Sorry if I have. Any member of council that I've forgotten? Have I?
I don't think so.
Don't think so. No. So we have council announcements. So we have Ellie have an announcement to make.
Yes, I do. So, as I said, I try to get you to sign up for debates. So, on that note, next week our debate is This House Supports a General Strike. I have one space. Yeah, I have one space on either side of the debate. So if you want to argue for a general strike or against, please let me know after the debate and I'll send you right up.
Thank you very much. We have Talsha, you have something?
Yeah, so if you're interested in doing any debates outside of Queen's, we have a UCD InterVarsity coming up on the 15th and 16th of October, so if you're interested in that, please contact me. And we also have the Irish Times debate, which you have 3 weeks to prepare for, write a whole speech, and then get to compete in rounds with the Irish Times in different universities as well. So please come to me or just message the page if you want to do it.
We have Ryan, you have something as well?
Yeah, so each year, or we did until COVID, we had a thing called the Stormont Mixer, which is basically where we all go up to Stormont, have a tour of the building, and then hold the debate in Stormont itself. So this year, we managed to get the Senate chamber for a debate, and we will have some political figures to come along to the debate alongside students. So if you're interested in that, please tell me, and I'll probably get like a sign-up form at some point, but I've not bothered to do that just yet. And then also, considering there's so many people here, I might as well say that at the end of the month we're bringing back the Halloween pub crawl as well. So if you want to get dressed up and go to different pubs and then finish the night at Kremlin, then that's another thing to let you know about.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 announcements from me. So obviously you can see we're very packed tonight, which is great to see. This is kind of the importance of membership. If you pay your membership fee, you get guaranteed entry, which is really good. Sorry for the people that are standing about. No seats left this week. And also we have 2 election positions to hold, because before the academic year, 2 of our council members have resigned due to academic difficulties. So we have a position for secretary and for outreach. So if you'd like to put yourself forward for either of those roles, you can email me or talk to Ryan afterwards, talk to anyone from council afterwards as well. So then that's kind of our announcements for this week. So I'd like to give a very big round of applause for Josie, our secretary, who's going to read the minutes from last week.
Thank you very much. And welcome everyone. Honestly, this is such an amazing turnout, so thank you all so much for coming tonight. So on the 22nd of September 2022, the Queen's University Belfast Literary and Scientific Society convened for the first ordinary meeting of the 174th session for the motion, "This House would ban QUB Love." As usual, the meetings began with announcements. Ellie Byrne HLM advertised the upcoming debate. Taoiseach McSparran announced UCD and Irish Times InterVarsity debating competitions and encouraged members to sign up. Ryan Hoey HLM announced the charity of choice, South Belfast Food Bank. A vote took place, seconded by Jodie Morrow HLM, and was supported unanimously by the House. President Matthew Taylor also encouraged members to participate in an upcoming programme for the BBC on the young people's views on the monarchy. After a reading of the minutes, the meeting moved to private members' business. Jodie Morrow HLM raised the issue of the census results that had been announced that day. Responses were heard by Ryan Hoey HLM, Ellie Byrne HLM, Grace Cunningham, Roshan Keenan, and Jake Kieran. I hope everything's all right out there.
That's the banner for one home.
Megan Hewitt brought up the news of a woman being attacked in Iran for incorrectly wearing her hijab. Comments were heard by Jacqueline Bonner, Ellie Byrne HLM, James Orchard HLM, Adam Race, and Luke Maguire. We then went on to President's questions. The President was asked what they had for breakfast. Surprise, surprise. Jodie Morrow HLM then asked if the President would do a rendition of Debating Queen after a few pints. The President didn't say no. However, after much anticipation, he did not fulfill his promise.
Shame.
Fingers crossed, tonight may be the night. The vote of prior opinion was held. There were 8 votes for aye, 24 votes for nay, and 6 abstentions, so the opposition had it. First on the proposition was James Orchard. He, having no previous knowledge of what QUB Love was until the evening prior, James had innocently perused the forum, each post making him progressively more incensed. James informed the House that he was sworn off of having children after seeing QUB Love. He went on to list the various posts that made him question humanity, such as battle-axe girlfriends to blatant sexual creeps. James then admitted to being a prude. He believed QUB Love... He believed QUB Love to be a sign of moral degradation, and then went on a tangent about King Louis XVI of France. First on the opposition was Jodie Morrow HLM. Despite the negative associations with the platform, QUB Love has offered new and old students a way to connect online, while serving to hold people accountable for their actions. Much like our very own society, QUB Love's comment section allows people to rebut profound statements and sparks debate. She compared banning QUB Love to book burning and said they should be given credit for not publishing all the shite that was sent to them. Considering our own history as a society, the Literific had previously been banned for defending a controversial speaker, therefore protecting the freedom of speech. Ultimately, banning QUB Love would be going against our own principles. Second on the proposition was Taoiseach McSparran. She reflected on how the Facebook page once upon a time would spread love, Disney style. However, today all it spreads is hate. According to the platform, 20-year-olds have been informed that they are pensioners, and despite the Literific being a group of well-tempered people, our beloved society has been slandered on QUB Love. Taoiseach went on to discuss the impact the platform has on the mental health of students who are observing the constant anonymous hate online. She finished her speech by saying that essentially QUB Love has no love left in it. Second on the opposition was Jacqueline Bonner. She informed the members that she wasn't aware that the House was an authoritarian regime, as QUB Love is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Jacqueline argued that by banning the platform, the House ultimately does not support democracy. The page is cringe, but let he without cringe cast the first stone. She finished by saying that the proposition are prudes and ain't getting no bitches. The final speaker for the proposition was Dermot Hamill. First, Dermot pointed out that he had no desire to get bitches. He went on to defend book burning as it isn't always a bad thing, especially in cases such as Twilight. Dermot came to the defense of the Donnybrook rats. The allegations of assault and sexual deviance against the rat community can only be described as complete lies, a clear demonstration of feline fascism. He appealed to the House that it was time to recognise the real damage that can be caused by the comments. With the spread of homophobic sentiments on the page demonstrating that the platform is a soapbox for bigots to stand on. The final speaker for the opposition was Rory McSparran. First, Rory informed the House that he had been forced to write the speech by a member of the proposition. In our external convener's defence, that is not always a tactic that we employ to find our speakers. Holding a fake cigarette in hand, Rory presented the question, how can you ban something which is named after love? He also asked the House if anyone could list anything bad that had love in the name. To his surprise, multiple people raised their hands, with one member of the House shouting, Love Island. Rory defended QUB Love as being very inclusive, as it caters to both furries and communists. I am legally obliged to inform the House that these two groups are not synonymous. Questions were heard from President Emeritus Daniel McCormick, Ellie Byrne HLM, Cormac McSparran and Megan Hewitt. Following the debate and questions from the House, the vote of speakability took place. There were 21 votes for the proposition, 17 votes for the opposition, and 3 abstentions, so the proposition had it. May I take the minutes as read?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josie. So now we move to private members' business. So for all of you that are new, this is your opportunity to raise a comment about something that's happened in the news or something that is affecting you about politics or about kind of that you would want students' voices on. So if anyone has any, they can raise their hand. Oh, we've got a fair few. Go for it, Ellie. Sorry, can you state your name for the minutes as well, please?
Ellie Byrne, so I'm going to get stuck in. What does the House think about Liz Trust's financial plan that has crashed? You're welcome.
Thanks very much for that one. Go for it. Can you state your name, please, as well?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kieran Smith. Yeah, no, it's not good. Statement of the century. It's not great, lads. Well, essentially, no, what I enjoyed greatly was the memes that came from this, like the trickle-down economics that was in some newspaper, where there was the graph that was next to the Chancellor's thing, including that he was pissing it down the drain, essentially. For everyone who doesn't know, essentially Liz Truss has proposed a lot of tax breaks for very wealthy individuals and has not funded this, well, has provided no means of funding this. So because of this, everyone has rightfully went, de feck. How is this going to work? And it's still crashing. Literally, my boyfriend gives me a running commentary on how the pound is, and it ain't great. So at the end of the day, she's kind of shooting herself in the foot, and probably at some point there will be some massive thing like an election, and who knows, maybe Labour might make a stance for once. And that is essentially my opinion on the matter, so there you go.
Thank you very much. The only person who might disagree with you in the room, go for it.
I hope given how many people there are here that I'm not the only person who would disagree with you in the room. So in terms of this, I actually thought it was a decent statement that reversed lots of the tax rises that Rishi Sunak had put in. So on the trajectory that we were at, we were going to reach a 70-year high in terms of the overall tax burden in the UK, and now on the Liz Truss's plan we're going to reach a 50-year high. So it's not like she's going back to the 1930s in terms of the tax burden in this country. And I think there obviously has been some like market instability caused by it, because she didn't set out the long-term fiscal strategy in terms of how we're going to reduce the debt over the long term, and I think that was a mistake. But the Chancellor is going to set out his medium-term strategy in November. So hopefully, it looks bad at the moment, but it'll be fine in the end.
Thank you for that point. Oh my days. Can someone from this side of the room have anything as well? Go for it. Man at the back, state your name for the minutes, please.
I think it's not a massive shock. I mean, whenever you were Prime Minister's most famous speech is about importing cheese, it doesn't exactly fill you with confidence with their fiscal strategy. But, I mean, if you vote Tory, you're going to get Tory economics. We all saw this coming. I mean, even during the Tory leadership race, Rishi Sunak, certain team, pointed out that people who would be benefiting from Liz Truss's tax cuts, those in the working class and on minimum wages, would only be saving something like £1 a week. It's not a shock. We all saw this coming. We all saw economic, instability coming from the Liz Truss Prime Minister situation. I mean, it's a mess. We are essentially, pardon my French, but fucked. I guess the best thing to do is just hope that we get a general election, or just really start to enjoy eating pesto pasta.
Go for it. Say your name as well, please. Thank you.
So, Jim George, I have 2 points. A, pesto pasta is lovely and doesn't dare. But I think, honestly, the budget, I think it's going to help people who are the most struggling in our society. Bankers. Does anyone ever think for them and their families?
Point well. Anyone got anything further on this topic? Go for it.
So I think this is a good.
Can you state your name as well, please?
So I think this is good for the students, because the question comes, I could buy more guns and actually survive in this country.
At what part? Yep, very, very back.
Oh, I'm not sure. So, lads, none of you are looking at this from a left-wing perspective. How many of you would identify as being left-wing? Guys, I'm not going to follow you home. So, you don't understand. What they did nearly caused every single bank in Britain to collapse. The Bank of England had stepped in. The Bank of England is an institution that made its money primarily off the back of the genocide in India. And they saved the day here. This is how bad this was. If how many of you are pro breaking the wheel, exiting the system? Utter fiscal collapse of Great Britain probably would have done more to accelerate. Probably would have done more to accelerate some sort of resolution of any kind, trigger, possible point with that.
Anyone got any points on that one? Some we've not heard from.
Resident communist, please.
Ian Moran, Computer Education Officer. I'd love for the fact that there'd be a revolution to be, somewhat viable, but unfortunately anyone who's kind of been on the left for quite a amount of time knows that the left is more interested in, discussing random things on Twitter, like the TSS7's ballsack, do you know what I mean? And I'm just addressing that, I've studied economics for quite a while, and I've done quite a lot of economic research, and I've done, I've spoken to economic conferences, and I'm really glad that to find that the result of an economic plan isn't health, education, academia, it's just the level of tax. Is that kind of what you're going at?
No, it's also supply side reforms.
Okay, supply side reforms is one of those, that's basically state-sponsored gaslighting, it doesn't mean nonsense, sorry, I get the interest.
Go for it. Yeah.
Well,
sorry, can you say your name, please?
John Lavery.
Thank you.
Here's one thing I find terrifying. Bojo seems to say to use people. Truss, he talked about lowering taxes, but one question to show he raised them. Truss, she actually believes in the things Tories are saying.
Thank you for that point. Okay, yeah, go for it.
Right. Sorry for starting this, no. So, my opinion on it is, for an economic plan, shit. I mean, the point last time I checked was at 108, and that was last night. This is the lowest it's been in decades. The bank, as already said, the Bank of England had to step in. I mean, can we all like just take a second to realise how insane that is? Second off, with the fact of the history of the pandemic, there's what, so many contracts, billions of pounds still A, missing or sold to toy companies for PPE that was never received or be able to use. The Tory government has a history of giving money to its friends and its rich friends. Liz Truss has friends in certain companies that buy stock. That stock is a lot more valuable if the pound is shit because they can buy it for cheaper and then sell it for more. If we're talking about tax breaks to save in the country, she's giving the biggest tax breaks to billionaires. If we tax the richer more and the working class less, we would have more money for the society to function because they have more money, that's how it works, and the working class people would be able to actually reinvest in the economy, reinvigorating the economy, because if workers can't afford to eat, they can't afford to buy nice clothes, and therefore the people at the shop then have to employ less people because no one's buying clothes because no one can afford to eat. It's a cycle. It's a stupid plan from the Tories that is to make their rich friends richer, and if they were so focused on lowering tax and making our lives easier, then they wouldn't have kept the windfall tax, pushed off the windfall tax until the new energy price cap came out in October for England, where it was at one of the highest it's been, and we're paying higher than Germany and France, who got majority of their oil from Russia. We get 17% of our oil from Russia, and yet we're paying the most in Europe because of tax from the government. So, they want to give a tax break, but where's the tax break on oil and fuel? Where's the tax break on appliances? Where is the tax break? Where is the extra money for the benefits that they took off and refused to give back? If they really wanted to be about giving money back into the economy, they're just giving it to their friends, not to the actual economy that makes up working class people.
Thank you. Does anyone have a other private member's business? We'll go to this side of the room.
Hi, Jodie Morrow. I don't know if anyone's been listening to BBC Ulster, but you might have better taste than I do in my radio. But earlier on this week, Stephen Nolan and a fair few other reporters were talking about trying to basically corner alliance and use them to sort of announce whether or not they take a side as nationalist or unionist, despite their long history as being the other. And I have an opinion on sort of everyone pushing a party who many people probably voted for, because there is a chunk of our population that prefers to sit out of this debate and doesn't have a massive opinion on the Constitution. So what does everybody think of this reaction to the census and sort of trying to push a party to do something that they've always been completely against doing?
We'll go here, go for it. Yeah.
Sam Hazel, I think that it is probably about time. I mean, they've been sitting on the fence at their coffee mornings in Bangor City Hall for about 50 years now, so I think it's probably about time they stop dilly-dallying, put their scones away, and got a stance together, because it's supposed to be some sort of forward-thinking thing, but it generally isn't saying we don't have an opinion on probably the biggest issue within this province, country, whatever. It's a very strange position to take. So, I mean, I know they're not going to take a position because they'll dilly-dally for so long, one or the other will have happened by then. But, they should probably, maybe.
Go right at the very end in the, yep.
Well, I mean,
sorry, can you say your name for the minutes, please, first? Sorry.
Niamh Devlin.
Thank you.
I mean, it's no real surprise that people are getting annoyed about it and that people are saying to pick a side. I mean, the whole reason Northern Ireland was created was to ensure that Catholics were the minority. That's why Donegal isn't part of Northern Ireland. So it's sort of, I'm sorry, this is like the first time I've ever been here, so I feel like we're
Thank you very much for your point. Anyone got a further point on that? Go for it.
Adam Brothers, and in response to the Bangor City Hall standard, I won't have it. It's lovely, but I think it's also a good thing that the alliance is sort of a safe haven for people like myself, and I suppose the person that raised the issue, that they don't have a stance in orange and green. I think that's a good thing. I think in time our country won't rely so much on orange and green. We're a pretty young country, we're only about 101 years old. So I think it's good for the alliance to sort of safe haven for people who are more moderates than the extreme left and right, orange and green.
Thank you. Go for it.
Jack Hamlin. I just think this is another example of Stephen Nolan pandering to the unionist sort of media in terms of they're now grasping at straws, forcing the alliance to possibly take a unionist position, which if they were to take a position they would, because of the impending nationalist majority. But I actually don't think really have much to worry about. The only thing that Stephen Nolan could corner is a chip plan.
Go for it. You're signing up.
I just want to respond to Mr. Adam Mother. Bangor's a shithole.
you've actually made my day. Seeing Alliance squirming and being in agony brings me so much joy. And I will make the joke when it comes up later on for abstentions. You be certain that will happen, but I mean, only anything really I can say. You've already said about it. I think Alliance is sort of a party for middle class voters who think they transcend politics, and they think they've actually hit the real jackpot. They think, I'm actually fiscally centre-right, but I'm socially liberal. You know, wow, no one cares. Wow, nobody else has thought of that before. So, you know, it's high time they actually take a stance on something to do with the constitutional issue, you know, which is the main issue. And I know people are saying that eventually it'll happen. I mean, we've been saying this since the late 90s. And I think obviously the levels of cooperation between the parties are probably worse than they were at the start of the formation of the Assembly back in 1998. So, you know, no. All I think is I think the Alliance likes sitting in the fence because they like the sensation of it up their backside.
That is on the line, James. Who have we not had? Anyone we haven't had? Yes?
So I remember I was discussing vaguely this issue with some individual, I forget who, but it wasn't him anyway. But I remember once upon a time we were talking about the fact that Alliance kind of are forced to stay in the middle. And it's very advantageous for them at the moment, considering that, let's face it, I hate green and orange politics. I hate it. I wanted to die in a fire. But the thing is, at the moment, people are kind of getting sick of the DUP and Sinn Féin kind of debacle. However, what's going to happen is a border poll is probably going to arrive, or talk of a border poll is at least going to arrive. And what's probably going to happen is they're going to completely grow in popularity, and if they don't make a decision, they will absolutely plummet. And that's realistically the way that Alliance is going to go if they don't make a decision on it. Because eventually the election will become a one-issue election, which is, are we going out of the Union or are we staying in? So, if you are voting Alliance, enjoy it while it lasts. Because, to me anyway, if they don't take a hard stance on the issue, at least when it appears, they'll shoot, in my opinion.
Go for it. Can you state your name for the minutes first, please? Thank you.
Adam Leach. I'm sure Jeffrey Donaldson's begging for them to go unionist. Given the recent success in the election, that might be enough to push him into the First Minister post, which he may or may not get in an election, because I'm sure Michelle O'Neill will be like, well, you didn't let me get the opportunity to be First Minister, so I'm not going to let you be First Minister.
Thank you. See, I'm trying to get new people that haven't spoken before. Go for it. Yes, thank you.
Amy Doherty. I think like Northern Ireland's politics is kind of based on the past, and it's going to take, like, Alliance is a good start, but that's all it is. It's a start. It's a sitting on the fence. We need people to take real issues. Like, there is things that are going on outside the border wall, like our economy is not the best, we need better chances and better opportunities. So yes, I think border issue is great, but we need to focus on the here and now rather than like 20 years in the future.
Go for it.
I do appreciate the point that was made that yes, Alliance should at some point make a decision. I really do appreciate that, but I think that the space Alliance provides is really important. The issue is that it wasn't just Stephen Nolan decided, oh, you know what, let's give Alliance a bit of a slagging. It was because Alliance essentially said no, they weren't going to go to an Ireland's Future conference. And I think the issue with that is a border poll's coming. I think, and if you ask guys in the DUP, they're going to tell you a border poll's coming. If you ask Sinn Féin, they're going to tell you SDLP, DUP. If you ask Jerry Carroll across the way, he's going to. The idea that just because you don't take a position on the constitutional question, that you shouldn't be involved in planning and discussions, I think that's dangerous. I think if a border poll is going to come, we may as well go in and know what we're going to get ourselves into. We may as well go in and say, right, well, if we do vote for unity, well, we're going to get X, Y, Z, and Leo Varadkar won't be Taoiseach anymore, and Micheál Martin has to sing around the vein. You know, if we're we're going to have it, we may as well know what we're getting into, and I think Alliance did make a misstep by not going to the conference. I appreciate that, yes, culturally, it might not have been the best move in terms of electoral politics, but I think in terms of actually being forward-thinking, they made a misstep.
We'll take one more point on this, and then I know that you have a point, but I'll take one more first. Go for it, yes.
If Alliance...
Sorry,
oh, sorry.
Can you say your name for the minutes, please? Thank you.
If Alliance didn't have a point, nobody would vote for them. People are not... If people wanted sectarian politics to divide even more, they would have voted for either party. So people clearly want a third option, so if taking the position doesn't make any sense, because then they'll not get any votes anymore, who would vote for them? So if people voted for them for a third reason, why take one of the two?
Thank you. You have a point. You make it quick, then we can hopefully fit one more in afterwards.
Yeah, neutrality in a position of unequal power dynamics is supporting the status quo. That's pretty much it. Like, there's no neutrality in apartheid, and there's no neutrality under occupation, there's no neutrality under fascism, so are we applying the same neutrality to an occupied state?
You had a point about student councillors? Sorry, it's the one I was...
Oh, you bring me on, like...
Yes,
oh, right.
It's your opportunity if you want to make it.
Oh, damn, I was hoping to be sectarian. I'm not very... I'm neither. Not Alliance, I'm just Jewish. I'm enjoying this. My name's Aidan Moran. I'm full-time officer for the Students' Union. So what we are, the collective voice of every single student. If you are a student at Queen's, which I hope most of you are, some of you might be Ulster, that's fine. Ulster's actually a better union at this point. We're the collective voice of you. If you think we're not representing you, that's because you're not shouting out, yeah? Shouting out is enough. Right now there's council elections, that's the democratic voice, that's like the parliament of the Students' Union. That's where you mandate us, so like we are accountable to the Student Council, so the council mandates us what to do. That actually has more power than us. If a motion passes through council, then we can be impeached over it. It is really important that people who are committed and like engaged run for this position. Don't worry about experience. Experience will come. If you really want to like experience in like working in political democratic systems, this is a great way to get involved. A lot of it is boring, not gonna lie to you. Some of it is insanely like the mad stuff I've heard over the years. I've heard Irish being referred to a terrorist language. I've heard myself and a few of my friends being described as terrorists. What was another one? Yeah, well, there's a variety of different stuff. Like, but usually it's I called a load of people scabs last year. It was fun.
You've got 1 minute left.
You've got 1 minute left?
Yeah.
Right. What we do is I want anyone who's ideally if anyone who's left wing, obviously if you're tired you can run as well. Like, but you know, don't. Put yourself down for your course and representative for Student Council. Come to as many meetings as possible, and also get involved in any campaigns that we are running. We're running a series of campaigns, mainly to tackle the cost of living. We've got a massive national union campaign to go at the moment. We're going to be out in the streets, going to be challenging landlords, challenging bosses. Everyone is out to exploit you, and like we're here to fight back against them. But or you could just talk. That's also good. But if you actually want to have take the fight to the capitalist class, take the fight and engage in this kind of class war, because you're all getting screwed. Get stuck in, run for council, get stuck into a campaign. I'm running numerous campaigns. We've got numerous other people running various campaigns, groups, stuff like that. This is the worst time to be doing nothing. Final, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? We all good? Right, we all running for council? Alright, you are? Good man. Alright, thank you very much. Ta-ra.
If you're interested, speak to Aidan in the pub afterwards. We want make it quick, but yes.
Yes.
One more.
So historically, this society has had a fairly bad reputation with the Students' Union. They didn't really like us, and we don't really like them.
We weren't.
Before the Students' Union was founded, Literific was the Students' Union. But anyway, but in deference to our SUO's lords, I would actually say. Yeah, it probably would be good if it would be good if more members of the Literific stood for elections, because then the SU wouldn't be so unrepresentative of the student body. So there we go.
And they never saw Ryan again.
And on that note, we have to end Private Members' Business for today. So it is my painful existence to have to announce that it is time for President's Questions. So this is sadly your opportunity to ask me a question for a maximum of 5 minutes, and I will be taking I will be forcing no requests about a debating or a song because I'm not going to be singing. So if that's your question, you can put it down. Go for it.
What did you have for breakfast?
Oh, shame. I had Weetabix for my breakfast today. Same as last week, so this is going to be very boring for you. I'm doing it deliberately so it doesn't get asked. Yes.
Could I bring up something that I forgot to mention in council announcements?
Yes.
Yes, it's pretty much as I was saying, I'm the events officer. We have some special events during the year. We've got the Storm Mixer coming up. We encourage you all to come up to that. You know, what would be better to meet some of our local politicians? God knows they're not doing anything else, but we take suggestions for guest speakers for debates and standalone talks during the year. In the past, we've used spreadsheets and things like that, but to be quite honest, I don't know how to work them, so the pub usually serves as good as any. So if anybody has any suggestions, just let me know.
Thank you. Anyone got any further? Go for it at the back, yes.
Hi, Amy. What do you think about getting fired for cheating prick on your wife? If you...
Where's your wife?
Sorry, my boyfriend's not here tonight. So this is in relation to anyone who doesn't know. Does anyone know the Try Guys? They are, yes, someone that refers to themselves as the guy that loves his wife, cheated on his wife, no surprise there. So my reaction was, I was shocked and very saddened. It was my childhood and I've kind of lost a wee bit of it, but I'm loving the memes, so that's kind of, it's a real positive for me. So yes, go for it.
As you'll know from my anger on Tuesday, I went to the Spar and the Student Union. I got a lunch there. It was over £5 for 4 mildly cooked pieces of chicken and 10 chips. They were quite warm.
Did you count
Would you not agree that buying membership for the whole year for the Literific is far better value than having the tripe that comes out of the stupid museum?
I would 100% agree because obviously you can get hopefully a discount later on in the year from Parlour, so that's kind of another reason to sign up. Oh, sorry, Lavery's, we don't speak of Parlour anymore. So yes, I think also you should probably speak to Aidan about the cost of, because I'm sure he'd love to have that conversation.
It's not, just for clarification, it's owned by Robinson, it's not by the SU.
Well, I'm just going to blame the issue.
That's fair.
Oh, how unique an individual. It's not like everyone else does that.
Anyone got any further? Yes?
Did I miss something as Parlour cancelled?
We're going to Lavery's.
No, like cancelled, like why did we not go in?
Because the manager is a dick.
I wasn't going to say it in that blunt terms, but you're correct. He is a bit of a dick. I'll have to because he'll kill me if I don't.
Yes, well. To quote President Matthew Taylor on Twitter.
Oh God! Oh no!
Is there any chance in hell you consider speaking at the first debate if I bought you a pint? Lol.
Oh.
You buying me that pint?
I'll buy you a pint this evening, Dermot. Don't worry, you'll have a pint on me. Yes.
Why are you getting over for a pint?
You're not a maiden speaker, sir.
It's my pint.
You'll get a pint tonight as well. I can't give.
That's extortion.
It's merely a suggestion. Any further? Yes, go for it.
Can you do a backflip?
I cannot. I am literally useless at anything that is anything associated with any talent whatsoever. So yes. We'll take one. This is the last one. Yes.
What are your thoughts on the poster the Orange Order had at the Fresher stall today?
So moving swiftly on from that, we will take. If there is one more, we'll take it. If not, thank God. Any more? No. Good. That concludes President's questions, and my torture for the week is over. So we now turn to the vote on prior opinion. So this is your opportunity to vote how you think on this motion. So you're voting, can we have the motion? I'll say the motion. The motion is, this House believes marriage is an outdated concept. So if you think marriage is an outdated concept, can you raise your hand now? And you'll have a very difficult time counting the number of people here. So I'll give you a minute or two. So if you think that marriage is an outdated concept, raise your hand now, please.
Also, there's an opportunity to abstain if you don't.
I'll get to that.
Well, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19, I think. I say 19.
19, okay. If you think marriage isn't an outdated concept, raise your hand now. Oh, geez.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 41, 42, 45, 46, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2,
Is all right. Do we have a number? Thank you.
55.
Okay, anyone abstaining on the motion? Oh, here's our alliance vote.
Seven, 10. You're so 10.
I have to like count this.
No,
It's gone. It's 10. Everyone's put their hand down. So 10? Oh, sorry. So have you got the final numbers then?
Yeah, so that's 19 votes for aye, 55 votes for nay, and 10 abstentions, so the opposition has it.
Thank you. So, to go through the rules for everyone that's new, each speech is 7 minutes long. The first minute is protected time, so you can't raise a point in the first minute of their speech, and that will be sounded by a bell. A bell will sound in the start of the second minute, which will then mean you can ask a question, but you must raise your hand and say point of order or on that point. If the speaker declines it, which is their right, you cannot put it up again and ask, because that's considered barracking. So you can raise a point, and if they take it, you can obviously say it, but make it brief, maybe 10, 15 seconds at the most. And then that's the same for the last minute of time. Once the second bell sounds, you can't ask another question as well. Obviously, give a round of applause after everyone's speech, and please, if you're needing to go to the bathroom, wait until the speech is ended and then go afterwards as well. On that, I think that is everything. I've forgotten anything. No, that's basically how the speeches work, and I think it is now time to introduce the first speaker of our debate, which is Owen McCall. Please give a huge round of applause to him.
Good evening, members of the House, members of the proposition, members of the opposition, and our esteemed speaker. Tonight I'm going to argue that marriage is an outdated concept and it needs to be forgotten. Well, so what is marriage? Marriage is primarily a Christian institution in this country. Seeing as 52% of marriages here take place in one of the four big wings of Christianity, with 32% being in the Catholic Church, I think it's fair to limit the scope of this debate down to what an overwhelming plurality of arrangements are. This is not a debate over the concept of monogamy, but the institution of marriage with all its religious connotations as well. If you have a happy, successful monogamous relationship, then that's fine, all power to you. But through the dominating force of social convention, alternative arrangements that might suit some people better have been made much more harder to pursue. And as we move towards an increasingly secular society, the idea of an institution like marriage, which is heavily associated with religion, ought to go along with it, for marriage is a relic of a bygone era, oppressive to women, exclusionary for people who don't fit into heteronormativity, and it's a force that promotes rigid norms. An institution of patriarchy, marriage has played a large part in reducing women to second-class citizens. For a girl has no identity of her own. She is born with her father's name and dies with her husband's name.
On that point,
Yeah, go ahead.
Why about women who just choose to keep their own names and get married anyway?
Yeah, and like, right, so. No, I was going on that point. It's still massively common for the alternative to happen, and this is the history of like marriage, what it represents. Like, it's still very heteronormative. Would you say there's like clear sort of roles in it? And like again, it's like, well, yeah. And that, like, that notion of being, taking her husband's name is a relic of the awful notion that used to be commonplace that a wife is nothing more than her husband's property. In fact, here in the West, it wasn't even until the tail end of the 20th century that the majority of countries had decided to consider marital rape a crime. Bertrand Russell even said that the total amount of undesired sex endured by women is probably greater in marriage than in prostitution. For hundreds of years, marriage was promoted as the only real goal that a woman could aspire to. I find it shocking that in the US sitcom Friends, Monica talks of having pretend weddings as a child and dreaming of it all her life when she was young. Because even in the 90s, it reflects that idea is instilled in women at such a young age that their main purpose in life is to marry and become subservient to a husband.
On that point.
No, thanks. For women who were even unluckier though, the stigma surrounding pregnancy outside of marriage led to the horrific abuses of young women and their children in the Magdalene laundries. Over 10,000 women in Northern Ireland went through these homes, enduring abhorrent abuse and having their children separated from them. According to the so-called paragons of virtue of the church, this was fitting punishment for the fallen women stripped of their rights for failing to live up to the rigid standards promoted through the institution of marriage. Often these women were also victims of rape and incest, but they were still made to suffer for another's crime.
On that point,
Yeah.
what relevance does that have to marriage? That's an entirely...
It's the institution of what it represents. It's promoted this idea in society.
That's back and forth.
What was that?
That's very back and forth.
Yeah,
You can't go back and forth.
The wise old boys of the church talk up the significance of marriage and the love that it's associated with. Yet the only thing faster than that is two horny Christians getting married to get God's approval for indulging in their desires. And this is little more than lust, with giving the appearance of love, which that in how like marriage is supposed to promote this like primacy of love. It's been it just degrades the notion of love when that's the sort of arrangement that you get. And then at the same time, if you're deeply in love with someone who is the wrong gender, then historically it's been bad luck, you can't get married. It's been an inherently exclusionary institution and has historically excluded so many people. And just like religion, I think like moving away from it is really the sensible option. And 42% of marriages end in divorce and the messy legal proceedings that come with it. The fact is that marriage can make it harder to find the right partner if you realize you've made a mistake. When you're legally tied to your misery. Yeah, that's basically it. Marriage is an outdated institution inherently tied to religion, and it's impressive. It's unfit for a modern society, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for that fantastic speech. And now we call upon the first member of the opposition, Jeannie Warren, to give him a hand as well. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to open the motion for the opposition this evening by first bringing to the attention of the House the historical basis of marriage as an institution. Marriage has existed since the dawn of time itself. For as long as humans have existed or been on the earth, couples have undertaken this oath to be faithful to one another in a loving relationship. Here we are in the year 2022 AD, year of our Lord, or whatever you want to call it, and the proposition is suggesting that we somehow arbitrarily abolish this long-standing tradition. We must ask ourselves, ultimately, to what purpose? That's right. The abolition of marriage serves no good purpose whatsoever. By the end of my colleagues' speeches and my own speech on the opposition this evening, hopefully the House will be well and truly convinced of this notion. The beautiful thing about marriage is that it comes in two main forms, religious and state-officiated ceremonies respectively. This is beneficial from the point of view of the common person, as it affords them the choice either to seal their commitment to their significant other, to receiving a religious blessing at service, or to opt for an admittedly much less elaborate marriage office, or better still, marriage that is both recognised on religious and civil grounds. Who said you can't have the best of both worlds? Anyway, each their own. People want to say below £1,000 in a very boozy, hedonistic do, then by all means, let them do that, says the inner libertarian within me. But also, if someone wants a very straight-laced affair with minimal shenanigans and a quick ceremony, that's equally fine as well. What I'm essentially trying to get at here is that if people very so wish to get married, then let them make cake, as Marie Antoinette once famously said, although not quite in the context in which I've quoted it. Further, more the ubiquity of marriage in both sacred and secular society is something that is of particular note. Quite clearly, the appeal of marriage extends much further than simply the church, although some fundamentalists may argue that the definition of marriage is strictly defined by whatever doctrine a particular church or other religious group adheres to.
On that point?
Yep.
Now, we're the ones who are proposing something this evening. We're proposing the marriage is outdated. You said abolish marriage. We never said abolish marriage. Now, you're proposing that we're hoping to abolish or wanting to abolish marriage. We're saying it's outdated, and we're saying that religious marriage, marriage in the sacrament, exactly what you just mentioned, is outdated. Now, we're not saying that nobody can get married, and we're not saying that anything about state marriages. We're saying that religious marriage is outdated. I advise you to argue with the point we're making, not the point you want us to make.
Well, so in Owen's speech, first speaker for the proposition, he basically hammered marriage as a concept, but exclusively tied it to the religious aspect of it. He made no mention of it whatsoever, and by not actually focusing that there is another option, a civil option of marriage, he is basically sort of sealed the nail in the coffin by adopting a very exclusionary sort of view on what marriage is. So marriage isn't a relic of the bygone era. It's still very much one concept that a great many people agree with, and as such practice it. I want to make reference to some statistics that corroborate the idea that marriage is still very much a relevant and enduring concept within the 21st century. In an article I found published by the UK Centre for Social Justice in August 2020 entitled "Family Structure Still Matters," it is made clear that in families within the bottom 20% of the income bracket, despite only 55% of these families consisting of parents that are married, 53% of children with cohabiting parents, i.e. that are not married, have had to experience their parent separation, in comparison to only 15% of 5-year-olds with married parents having had to go through the parent separation within families from the same income bracket. This highlights the effectiveness of parental marriage in providing a solid foundation upon which a romantic relationship and subsequent family structures can stand the test of time. It is not surprising that a special commitment in institutions such as marriage can provide a great deal of stability and substance to family structures and dynamics, as it's not only a convention that has been tried and tested throughout the ages, it's also been shown that the very act of publicly exchanging marital vows with one's partner before the audience of people actually psychologically encourages two individuals to be faithful to one another till death do them part. Society has been shaped by the institution of marriage. This is evidenced by our own very notion in the Western world of what a typical romantic relationship or coupling is, i.e. a monogamous partnership between two beings, not bigamy, polyamory or polygamy, as practiced in some religions and more Eastern and Asian cultures. Philosophically speaking, much of our own moral sense of right and wrong, a great many of our laws of modern times are still being influenced by Western ethics, more broadly by moralistic teachings that originated in the Abrahamic religions such as Christianity and Judaism. To ignore the profound influence of these schools of thought and systems of belief and our own reality today would be to commit a gross injustice. What has been in the past must bear relevance to the present. Otherwise, humanity is just reinventing the wheel for the sake of it, without aim or purpose. Marriage as a concept is transcendent of time and circumstance. It is not an historical artifice, nor is it a distinctly contemporary phenomenon. It is deeply entwined with the nature of humanity itself.
On that point?
Yep.
Could you name the dates that humanity started and the date of the first marriage? And are they the same date?
The first marriage started.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just trying to work out the time jump between like the first marriage.
Humans have existed.
Or was it like 25,000, 30,000?
Humans have existed on the Earth for about 100 billion years. And for as long as sentient beings have existed, I'd imagine there'd be some institution, whether it's what we call marriage or whether it's something else, that they've been very like proto-religions, people worshipping the sun. Like, these concepts are as old as humanity itself. You can't exactly deny that there hasn't been some kind of spiritual sort of impetus for people to take a vow of devotion to one another in a relationship. We must continue to respect marriage as a tradition and its place in a structured and ordered society. And as mentioned in the opening of the speech, as long as there have been humans, there's been marriage, and as long as there will be humans, there will be marriage. This fundamentally refutes the idea of marriage being an outdated concept that the proposition is attempting to peddle on the members of the House and, by extent, the masses within society itself. I want to close my speech for the opposition this evening by quoting a popular Sicilian phrase that is often exclaimed at the wedding ceremonies of the daughters of dons of the local Cosa Nostra: Cent'anni, which means for long life, or for you language aficionados out there, literally means may you live for 100 years, which is apt for the profound devotion that it requires between members in a relationship with partners in order for a marriage to work and last as long as life itself, which if undertaken and maintained is ultimately worth the time and sacrifice that it involves. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. I'd like to call on the next speaker from the opposition, Grace Honeycomb. Give her Grace a big hand, please.
Esteemed Chairperson, members of the opposition, members of the proposition, members of the House, good evening. And it is most certainly a good evening, because while it is dishearteningly easy to fall into a negative mindset these days and call to disguise that life is a misery and we'll all be alone in our graves by 30, romance, love and sentiment are clearly not dead. Otherwise we would be not having this debate tonight. It is also a good evening, however, to remind ourselves not to be naive. Romance is still alive and well, and long-term commitment and devotion are not a thing of the past, but the Western Christian ideal of marriage has served its time as the pinnacle of expressing those ideals. I'm not going to argue that marriage should be abolished, or doesn't have value or significance. It does. I am, however, going to argue that it is no longer an accurate depiction of the romantic ideal and cannot be viewed as such. Over the past years, our society has grown more and more secular and multicultural, with over 52% of the population being non-Christian, almost as high as the divorce rate, but we'll get to that later. With that in mind, having a Christian sacrament as the essential element of adulthood is undeniably outdated. And yet this ideal of the white gown and a priest and a woman being handed over to a man by her father is still upheld as something everyone must want and needs to do to be happy. With the aforementioned rates of non-Christian citizens, this borders on ridiculous. Thousands of cultures worldwide have marriage traditions that are centuries old. Yet the romantic ideal remains as the Christian tradition. Marriage in ancient Ireland, which saw a joining of equals, has been lost to time. The same can be said of hundreds of cultures worldwide that I sadly do not have access to the history of. Big thanks to whitewashing historians, Huckleberry Finn couldn't have done it better. How can we say that the Christian tradition of marriage is the only way to do it when over half of our population agrees that it certainly is not? We can also look at just how warped the ideals of marriage are, or have become. What began as a way to show your commitment to your partner for the rest of your life and celebrate love with family and friends has turned into marriage at first sight, say yes to the dress and my big fat gypsy wedding. And not to mention a cultural demand that has the average cost of £31,974 just for one day. With the current cost of living, I don't think I really need to argue any further than that. The whole marriage thing is out the window, kids. None of us had that kind of cash. Why has it become so expensive? When did love become a display of wealth and economic status? When will it end? Simple, with capitalism. This House has agreed on several occasions that capitalism is no longer the vibe, so why are we arguing that marriage is still a great idea? I would also like to address the accusations last week that this house gets no bitches. And rival that with the statistic that the average person has sex around 78 times a year. So, unless someone here has absolutely godlike game, opposition excluded, I can fairly confidently say that the average student does partake in casual sex, including the house at large. However, according to the traditions of marriage, this is absolutely not allowed. The idea of a virginal and ergo pure bride is something that simply cannot be upheld as realistic in this society, and yet is maintained throughout many cultures.
How many virgins get married now? That's a very outdated concept. Literally, the majority of people who go up to that altar look at the priest dead in the eye and shake the hand of the person they've had sex with, probably thousands of times.
I'm not going to dispute that because you've just backed me up. Where was I? Yes, so women have been going through a sexual revolution for literal decades now, and the ideals of marriage are holding that back even still. In many countries and religions, women who are not virgin brides are still frowned upon and shunned by their communities. Single mothers are still discriminated against, and virginity is still a concept that is bought and sold and mainly upheld by the ideals of the marriage tradition. A tradition that deems a woman's worth to be loved on whether she walks home from on a Sunday morning, whether that be church or her ex's house, no longer has any place in modern times. I don't know about you, but with only 58% of women worldwide considering themselves financially independent, the idea that marriage, undeniably financial exchange, still requires virginity is a little scary. Romance is not dead. People have always found ways to devote themselves to each other forever and always. But the ideal of a Western Christian tradition of marriage is a colonialist, capitalist shitshow that eliminates thousands of cultures that have already been almost written out of history, forces women to uphold arbitrary gender roles, and costs so much money that this House simply cannot afford to maintain it as a tradition. For these reasons, I urge you to vote that marriage is outdated. Thank you.
Can we get another round of applause for Grace? She is our maiden speaker. And I'd like to call on our second member of the opposition, Luke McGuire.
I'm not as well spoken as Grace, or I forgot your name, sorry. I'm not as well spoken as Grace Edens, but I hope you can understand the points I make at least. It no longer surprises me to learn that there's many today that don't really believe in marriage. It's a symptom of a much deeper issue, that being the postmodern mechanistic view of the world held by many today. This worldview damages people's belief in marriage. This is because it has poisoned a much deeper concept, that of love. It has neglected love to being no more than an intense feeling that someone has caused by some release of chemicals. This concept has real-world consequences, that being it trivializes the connection that you have with others, and it trivializes, even more importantly, marriage. With this trivialization of marriage, you can easily see the hurtful hookup culture people take part in today. Regardless of what those in the women's lib movement or the disciples of Tate might say, there is no such thing as casual sex. Sex is not, will not, and can never be casual. This casualization of sex and love runs contrary to human nature, as we all require relationships that are deep, meaningful, and lifelong to make the suffering in life a little bit worthwhile. Yeah?
What about people who are asexual or romantic?
That is their own problem. But the lack of such relationships today is the primary reason for the mental health epidemic we see so clearly, as people no longer have something solid to sustain them through this horrible life. So how could we help this meaning crisis? By returning to a true, deep and meaningful concept of love. That being, as Aquinas said, to will the good of the other. Not for the sake of their good benefiting you, but simply for their own sake. So There is nothing greater in this life you can do. This concept of love, unlike the modern shallow descriptive one, is a call to action. Action that might allow you to see a person as who they truly are. According to Carl Jung, most people don't actually see other people. They see a projection of an idea of who they think that person is. We are not that. On the deepest level, we all want to be understood. But this is not easy because we are flawed, at times self-centered, and very limited as people. So to see another for who they truly are requires dedication, commitment to one person over the span of a lifetime.
On that point,
Yep.
how do you factor in polyamorous relationships?
I don't. More simply put, to overcome the suffering in this world that is coming for us all, it requires traditional marriage. It requires both the man and the woman to say, I'm not leaving ever, so we may as well fix ourselves.
On that point,
Yes?
what about gay marriage?
Again, I refer to my previous statement. And then, along that process of love, you may actually see the person for more and more who they actually are. This is why, on the individual level, the concept of marriage will never be outdated, as we will always need deep, lifelong commitment to one another. Love is a game you don't get to play unless you're all in. So,
on that point,
yes.
Is love a game that you don't get to play if you're gay as well?
Well,
is that not what you just said?
There are many types of love. There's the love that I would have for you. There's a love that you would have for a child. There's a love that you would have for your significant other, and there's love that you would have for God.
Okay.
So it is clear to see that traditional marriage is necessary for individuals to flourish. But what about society? J.D. Unwin, a social anthropologist, in his work Sex and Culture, gives the evidence that lifelong monogamous relationships that are socially enforced are the underpinning to civilization itself. Unwin, a secular liberal himself, stated that when researching this evidence, he didn't seek to prove a particular idea, but rather to show the relation between sexual freedom and societal energy. Studying 80 primitive tribes and 6 civilizations over the course of 5,000 years, what he found was that the greater social restrictions placed on sexual freedom, the greater energy a society would display. Defining...
How the hell did he measure that? That a society had more energy to it? Please describe how a society has more energy.
That is the next line. He defines societal energy as the society's ability to reason, create, and reflect upon itself as those with the qualities solely dedicated to human societies and not animalistic ones. Unwin states that a society is free to choose either to display great societal energy or to enjoy sexual freedom.
On that point, on the topic of animalistic tendencies, what is the difference between marriage as we do it and mating for life as penguins and birds and hundreds of thousands of animals do?
Reflecting upon itself, be able to create other things and to be able to reason why it is good. Unwin states that society is free to choose either great societal energy or enjoy sexual freedom. No society, he studied, can do both for more than one generation. And even the effects from that generation will not be found for at least 3 more. Oh, I have so much more to say. I'll go fly through this. It's important to know what is meant by the restrictions on sexual freedom. So Unwin found that the most societal energy was displayed when there was enforced norms of prenuptial chastity and postnuptial monogamy, traditional marriage. Unwin found that Rome, Athens, and England, who have displayed the greatest societal energy out of all his studies, he classed them as rationalistic, the only ones that were.
On that point, Rome openly had
This decline in display of energy seen in the fall of Rome, and then being conquered by the completely monogamous German tribes, and even Rome's own conquering of the then hedonistic Greek when it was completely monogamous, shows the societal energy that is displayed through monogamy. Of all the things I've said, this would be the most important. Can I finish? Don't let the cynics fool you. Just you're living a life in this world. You're going to suffer. You're going to suffer terribly, and then it's going to kill you. So why not play the most beautiful game you can? Why not play the game of love? A game you don't get to play unless you're all in.
Thank you very much, Luke. Luke is also a main speaker. So we have a second round of applause. Before we have the beautiful mission performance speech, I would like to make a point that Literific is fully inclusive of free speech, but also we are also fully inclusive of every student, every type of student who here. It is your right to say whatever you believe in, so I would ask you to please respect people's views. Also, someone may be speaking on one side and actually their views may be different, as I forgot to say before I started. So please just be respectful of everyone's views, and if you're LGBT, for example, you're very much welcome here in society, so thank you very much. And without further ado, can you please welcome Dan McCormick, third competition.
Well, don't I feel lucky, because I didn't have anything written about dons or mafiosos or anything, but I did have something written to address people who object to gay people's freedom. So, marriage, allegedly the ultimate way to declare your love in front of your friends, your family, and your God of choice. Now, my friends on this side have already clearly described how marriage is one of the most stubbornly sturdy elements of both legal and cultural oppression in history. Okay, I want to reiterate a point made at the start. We as the proposition get to define the motion this evening, or at least interpret it. We say that the religious conception of marriage is outdated. Last speech notwithstanding, you have to argue with that, not your proposal of what we're arguing, what we're actually arguing, and I advise you to contend with that, nothing else. So, to wrap up my side's argument, I'll be citing two primary sources. Number one, the Bible, and the other, the 2003 Christmas classic, Love Actually. One is, of course, a foundational part of shaping the world's conception of love and marriage, and the other is a very old book. The oppression of women has been well covered, so despite my irrefutable status as a paragon of feminist sentiment, I'll leave that to my fellow experts. I'm going to really zero in on what I find to be one of the worst aspects of marriage in its religious conception, which is its exclusionary nature. And to do that, I'm going to tell you a parable from the divine Love Actually. There is a singer in the film. His name's Billy Mack, and Billy Mack is recording a very, very soulless cover of a love song for Christmas. It's called Christmas Is All Around Me, and it's beautiful. But the thing about it is that it's very, very cynical, and he's being very, very cynical whenever he's saying it. And Billy Mack, he's just a very cynical bloke. He's doing it all for money, right? And then you have his manager, and his name is Joe. Now, Billy Mack and Joe have a bit of a difficult relationship, as many people do with people they work with. And over the course of the film, they come to find their love for one another, and for the world, and for the art, and for Christmas. And it's beautiful, and it's wonderful. And how might our dear friends on this side of the house propose that they express this newfound love? Marriage? Well, I'll tell you how it actually ends is that Billy Mack decides not to go to a party with Elton John, and instead to go over to Joe's house where they get drunk and watch porn together. So, perhaps this idea of, sitting down and getting drunk with your mates and watching porn is within a modern progressive marriage that, breaks out from the strict bounds of historical marriage. And perhaps the Puritans among you say Billy Mack and Joe should burn in hell. But this provokes an important question. Who ought to define marriage? And who ought to, say, for example, as the Christian faith does in their conception of marriage, they define a hierarchy of sort of expressions of love, and they say that our marriage is at the top. I don't think that's right. I think that the moral of the story between Billy Mack and Joe, divine as it is that love comes in all shapes and sizes. And any expression of love that comes from the bottom of your heart with sincerity is equal to all others. The religious conception of marriage, we argue, is outdated, and it argues and cites that expressions of love or its expressions of love are of a higher nature and in fact come from divine fiat? I don't think so, and I don't think that you should limit the thinking that I've been doing with this story of Billy, Mac and Joe to just them. I would put it to each and every one of you who's ever found, appeal in the idea of love, ever felt love. Some of you might have felt love before. And I would, ask you to think about some of the utter degeneracy you've engaged in the pursuit of that love. Few, if any of you, are married, but I wouldn't stand up here and deny the veracity of the love that you claim to have felt, just because it doesn't fit into my way of expressing it or how I think you ought to express it. I think that you'd have a perfect right to come up here and tell me I was wrong. I was totally wrong for denying your way of loving someone, if it's sincere and comes from the bottom of your heart. Each and every one of you knows someone who's been ostracized from polite society for not fitting into the binary proposed by and inherent in this institution that you are defending. Okay? When you say there's a new form of marriage arising and argue that's a good thing, we agree, it is a good thing. But the institution that you're defending is part of the stubborn means of enforcing the binary inherent in it. So, as said at the beginning, the majority by far of marriages in this part of the world are still of the traditional, outdated and exclusionary variety under the religious umbrella. When the day comes that marriage in its conception will inherently not look down upon expressions of love, say for example like Billy, Mac and Joe's, I will gladly join hands with you lot and die defending marriage with the same vigour in which you've defended it this evening. But until that day, I ask you all to stand back and consider, before you say anything defending the institution of marriage and disagreeing with me, do not denigrate, downplay or dismiss anyone else's expression of love simply because you think that your way is better. You degenerates should sit back and consider. You should bask in the comfortable freedom that comes with the threat of eternal damnation or claims of inherent inferiority or less legitimacy just because of how you choose to do it. Nobody should be able to put that on you, and you should be able to express your love freely without the pressure of something like that on your mind. Really, I think it can all be summed up like this. You should all fuck whoever you like, however you like, but more importantly, fuck marriage. It's outdated, it's exclusionary. Vote for the proposition. Thank you.
Thank you to my predecessor, Callum, for that excellent speech. I plan to call on our final speaker, Ellie Byrne, for the opposition.
I hope you're ready for a change of pace in terms of the opposition, because I'm going to argue basically the complete opposite of what you've heard from my side before. So, as you can probably read, I am non-binary, I also happen to be bisexual, I'm in a long-term marriage, and I just had a cat child. I adopted a kitten yesterday, it is adorable. So I'm here to defend marriage, and I would just like to point out a couple things from the proposition first. So, this debate is, this House believes marriage is an outdated concept. The key word being concept. I wrote the term card, I didn't write religious marriage, I didn't write Christian marriage, I wrote concept. So, the fact that, yes, the proposition gets to set the definition for how this debate goes. However, changing the wording and ignoring the word concept in the title is not part of the grounds that you can do that, and in fact is categorised as pigeonholing the debate, making us have to take a Christian crusade route, which I refuse to do as an ex-Christian, so here I am. So, let's get started. The first speaker talked about Christianity and Christianity and Christianity and the patriarchy and about Christian divorces. No, thank you. So, about how we are becoming a secular society, it's a social convention, and I want to focus on that word social convention because marriage is a social construct. Social constructs are created by the society they exist in, and when previously asked when marriage started, marriage has been in history and it predates written history. Marriage predates our written history. Marriage has been about, because marriage is not an Abrahamic religious institution only. Marriage exists all around the world in basically every single culture for one reason: People showing their devout love to each other is something that we as humans can all share. All of us at one point in our lives will love someone romantically, hopefully, and we'll be able to share that connection with someone. And having that devotion to one or many others, how many you choose, is something that we as a society, for years and years, through different religions, through kings, through countries, have decided that is important to us in our core values. That is not outdated. We, yes, are moving into a society that, along with the pound, is going to shit. But, you know, we need to hold true to what is us, and that is our love for each other as people, our love for those around us, our love for our family, our friends, and our significant others, our partners that we choose to live our lives with. That.
On that point.
No, thank you. You've talked enough. So, on to the next speaker. Obviously, talked about the patriarchy and religion, and again, Christianity. And while I personally disagree, I mean, I do plan on getting married to my partner eventually, maybe when I'm like old, like 30. So, you know, I will probably get married the same way my parents get married, and I'll get into that in a wee bit. But I was actually, you know, sorry. That's the point there. So they mentioned that what began as love has turned into say yes to the dress and all this, but I thought their definition was a Christian religion. So first they start talking about other religions and spending money, and you know, marriages are all about money and all about the dress and all about this and spending money and showing to the public that you're in a relationship with each other. No, thank you. And that it requires virginity, and my problem with the proposition is that they took this majorly Western Christian view of what marriage is and said that this is the ideal for majority of people when they think of marriage.
On that point.
No, thank you. And I think that is very, very disclusionary, because you know, not every single country is Christian. Not every single person in every single country's main view of marriage. I mean, if I took a view of what you want your marriage to be,
yes,
it wouldn't probably be white dress with your virginity going down. No, thank you. What they are they limited themselves to that Western view, and that is going to be their downfall today. So, next, moving on. Daniel said, who ought to define marriage? And then defined marriage in this debate as the Christian religious marriage. So, unless you've had a
clarification.
Sure, go ahead.
I didn't define it. I said, for one, we're arguing on the basis, we're not just arguing on the basis of religious marriage just because we decided to. It's because that's the majority, by far, of marriages here, for all of history here, or at least all of modern history.
All of history, interesting.
The clarification is that I was arguing against religious marriage. I did not define religious marriage. I said, or excuse me, I didn't define marriage inherently.
Right, okay, I'm going to stop you there and I'm going to continue because it's my time. Thank you. So, you can get a chance to talk later again. So, what you said was that you're defending against religious marriage. Then the only example of a religious marriage you used was a Christian marriage, because as you said, right there, was the most, like the biggest example of marriages in this country, and you said in history, which I will come back to in a wee second. So, as I already said, marriage is a social construct. A construct is defined by the society it is in. And marriage has evolved. In this land, historically, marriage was a pagan thing before we were colonised. Marriage was between two people, and the tying the knot phrase comes from Celtic marriages, where partners would join hands and their friends and family would wrap rope and cord around their hands while they said their vows, and after they would remove their hands and a Celtic knot would be formed, and that knot was to represent their relationship, their tying their souls together, their bond and their commitment and love to each other. Now, I think it's quite interesting that, as I said, Celtic marriages were brought up. No, thank you. And I've got a lot to say, sorry, I don't have time. And I would like to bring up the fact that Celtic marriages in this country haven't completely went away. Tying the knot and doing the hand fasting ceremony, as it's called, is still widely practiced. And also, in Scotland, one of the main forms of marriage is they retained their right, and they re-ratified that in 2005, to have a marriage that didn't involve Christianity in it, so that you can have a non-religious marriage in Scotland. And that is where my parents got married. My parents eloped in Gretna Green and got married over an anvil. Both my parents come from mixed marriages in terms of Protestant and Catholic. My mum's side like to stick to their Irish traditions and have for generations. And this is the vows that were my granny got married to my granda with. Now originally they were in Irish, and my mum, who doesn't speak Irish, my granny translated her vows along the lines of what was tradition in my family, and I would like to read this out. You cannot possess me, for I belong to myself, but while we both wish it, I give you that which is mine to give. You cannot command me, for I am a free person, but I shall serve you in those ways you require, and the honeycomb will taste sweeter coming from my hand. I pledge to you that yours will be the name I cry aloud in the night, and the eyes into which I smile in the morning. I pledge to you the first bite from my meat and first drink from my cup. I pledge to you my living and dying equally in your care. This is my wedding vow to you. This is a marriage of equals. My parents were married before I was born. I grew up in a married household, but I do want to state that marriage evolves with the society. We've seen marriage evolve with gay marriage, with many countries returning back to traditions. Christian marriage, in my opinion, is only here for a while and might not be here for extremely long to stay. And we shouldn't necessarily say that marriage, overall as a concept, is outdated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellie, for that fantastic speech. Is anyone else a wee bit uncomfortable at the minute? Because I certainly am. So now we turn our attention to questions from the House. So does anyone have a question for, we will do proposition, then opposition, then abstention. Does anyone have any questions for the proposition first? State your name and yes, go for it.
This is a question to the first speaker for the proposition. What I got sort of from your speech was essentially sort of cherry picking of data points. For instance, the point that's been bandied about repeatedly is this figure that a majority. I mean, when looking at it, it seems it's 50.2, which is what the slimmest majority you can get, which isn't equal. Also the point that you were making about marital rape, which of course I don't think anyone here would defend, but I don't think that was even before it was banned, was a major component of marriage. So I just ask, why exactly should anyone be voting in favour of the proposition when you ignored virtually half the marriages in the country here and have tried to conflate some very horrific things with something that the vast majority of couples never ever engaged in?
Proposition to respond.
Taking note of that's the history and the values that have been promoted by the institution. We're saying it's outdated, we're saying that that's in the past. And with like the 52% as well, it's like plurality, it's not like the 48% of like one specific other kind of marriage. It's just the largest portion by far.
If I may note, as the person who found that statistic, it is 52% among all other denominations, and that's from the four main wings of Christianity. Among the four main wings of Christianity, and further, that was the basis for the argument, meaning that this wasn't a case of pigeonholing as such, because we were taking the scope of the debate. You have to argue, you have to sort of take the scope of the debate as it's defined generally by the proposition, because we weren't taking it to a tiny minority, we were taking it to the overwhelming majority when you look at them compared to any other denomination. And then we were taking that and sort of debating on the veracity and the legitimacy of those marriages and rising that conception. Because otherwise you could argue, like, we could come in here and start arguing about Celtic marriage as you brought up, and we could do that with perfect utility. But I don't think that's what you meant when you wrote it, and that's certainly not what we were arguing is outdated. Although I think it kind of would be Celtic marriage, yeah. But apart from that,
back up on that point. You were arguing, the proposition was arguing that, opposition, sorry, was arguing that these cultural, Celtic marriages and all are still like widely used, but they're not. The concept of marriage as a society, the first thing that springs to mind is the traditional Christian one, and that does have a lot of issues in it. Back to your question, it was to do with the statistics. What was the statistic for? Again, specifically, was
52% of all marriages from the Christian.
Yeah.
Is that the one we're doing?
Yeah.
So like, I'm lost as well.
Anyone got any questions for the sorry, opposition response? Apologies.
So, I think that whenever you're looking at something as a concept, it's important to look at the history of it and how it has evolved and how it continues to evolve. And as I brought up, marriage is a social construct, and it is up to us to evolve and change it. As our society evolves and changes, it fits and forms to our society. So if you personally feel that whenever you envision a wedding, you envision that Christian wedding, then that is for you. If a Christian country as a society might generally envision that, then sure. However, we've seen an increasing amount of other types of marriages exist, and gay marriages are now legal in this country. That is another form of marriage, and you need to look at that in the long run of the concept of marriage. Is it outdated? If it was outdated, why are we updating it to include other groups who weren't included? If it was such an outdated concept, why would the LGBTQ community fight so hard to be included in something that is outdated and exclusionary and patriarchal? And also to suggest that the idea of marriage and a woman having to take her husband's name, which she doesn't have to do, is patriarchal. Are you saying that all straight heterosexual relationships between a man and woman fulfill the roles of patriarchy, where the man has to be the breadwinner and the woman has to be the homemaker, and if they get married, they automatically are forced to appeal to that? Because that is not marriage itself. In marriage, you do not write a contract saying, I will make my husband dinner every single day at 5 o'clock before he comes home, and his cup of coffee will be nice and warm, and the husband writes, I will make sure to provide money for my wife and a kid for the church. No, that is not in the contract that you sign. A marriage is a devotion between two people. If you're talking about the family and the nuclear family and those concepts, that is the institution of family in our society, not of marriage.
Opposition to respond, and then we're moving on to an opposition question.
No.
They don't get to respond.
That's it, no.
Opposition question. Go for it.
Throughout the debate, we mentioned that the basis on the marriage isn't actually a concept, except it's a relation to human nature and it's existed for written history. Not to be like, I study history here, but actually, yeah, to be like, I study history here, brains, and a lot of the sources of bullshit. And they argue that marriage exists before written history. They argue that a cave painting is your source. They argue that a burial that depicts a man and a woman and a skeleton is your source. They argue that marriage isn't outdated because of written history. Before written history is a very, very flawed argument, in my opinion.
Opposition to respond.
Through human history, I never made the point, by the way. Through human history, there are many types of different relationships. And the idea of marriage, the idea of marriage can be easily abstracted if you take the archetypical motives behind it and the behaviours behind it, which can be told through pre-written ideas.
Opposition to respond, yes.
I'm confused. I don't know. Do you two disagree with each other more or disagree with us?
Daniel, do you have a point as well, or is it just that?
I suppose on the history front, again, I suppose in our history classes, they also, you know, with the reliability of sources, that's pretty important, but also with the relevance of them. Like, go back to the whole thing, we kind of went to the defining the scope of the debate, and then you threw that out the window, and that's fair enough, but realistically, if you want to contend, like I said at the very, very beginning, is that if you want to contend with the argument that we are putting forward, you should debate with the argument we're putting forward and not debate with whatever your idea of what our argument is.
Okay, well, hold that. Well, in your idea of
You're not allowed to respond to that. No.
I thought it was a question to them.
There's a question to you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
Do we have any abstaining questions?
Explain what abstaining
This is a question that has to be given equally to both sides, so both sides can respond to it. Yeah.
Can I ask both sides, could you quickly define what you understand emotion mean? Because I got a sense that neither side. One thing like this debate is not the actual emotion, but what we mean with emotion.
Do you want to go first?
Maybe people with us.
I would emotion was until this afternoon. I just knew I had to argue that marriage was outdated. I didn't know that it was the concept specifically, just marriage, and so I went with what's the first thing that pops into most people's heads when they're thinking marriage, and I was thinking about, like, you know, what we see growing up on TV. What's the white dress in the church and the thing. And what you see in most media, what you see, like, what's the most common representation of marriage as a concept in society is abortion. And it's kind of argument.
Opposition to this one?
So marriage as a concept, obviously we've heard three different views of definitions of marriage due to personal reasons. However, I think the point still stands from our side that marriage as a concept, and the fact that it's a concept, honest, I know I'm really, really sorry for repeating sociology A-level buzzwords, but it's a social construct. I'm so sorry. I've said that more than I've ever said in sociology A-level. As a social construct, it evolves and changes to the society it is in, and you need to look at, in my opinion, when you're looking at a concept, its beginnings, where it is, and where it's going.
We will take one run through, so proposition questions. Yes.
Right, so this wasn't addressed in the entire debate, so I won't bring it up. The thing is, so when I think about marriage, now here's the thing, I'm probably not going to get married to my boyfriend anytime soon. However, the thing is, I remember we were discussing this the other day when it came to my insurance in my work. If I die, money goes to my parents, or it goes to my spouse. Doesn't say anything else about it goes to my boyfriend or it goes to my significant other, it goes to my spouse. Now, the argument I want to address is, wouldn't it be quite hard to argue that marriage is outdated, when in reality it does serve a very important concept when it comes to legal issues, in terms of custody, in terms of who gets money, in terms of what happens when you die, for example. And it hasn't been addressed, so thought I might have brought it up.
Proposition to respond.
And use an example from the new bond, which is that any long-term committed relationship over the length of 10 years can be recognised as a form of legal marriage. So your boyfriend could argue that he's entitled to insurance if you die.
To respond to that, I'm sorry. In the UK, if you're living with your spouse for 7 years, if you're living with them, it's like the whole, like that thing. But I would also like to bring up on this as marriage concept. So I have been dating my partner for 5 years, and we've been together for 3. We have our own place. As I said, we have a cat child, because I'm not having kids ever, so my cat is my version of that. It's my baby now. I will kill everyone for it. But, sorry, as I was saying, me and my partner have different health issues, right? I'm in hospital quite a lot, and he is at the GP quite a lot. Because of his health issues, I have to advocate on behalf of him for some things. However, because we are not legally married, that is a fucking nightmare. And whenever I've been in hospital, he hasn't been allowed to visit me because he is not my fiance. So we faked a proposal and in this desperate mess, we were there for 10 hours, and then they're like, you can go home. Anyway, but that is, whenever you define it as such a tight Christian, religious thing, you're then ignoring civil marriages and other purposes for marriages and commitments of love to each other, which are important and also have legal implications in our society. And therefore, we would argue it is not an outdated concept.
Do we have any opposition questions?
You said how marriage was historically an expression of love between two people, but how can you ignore historically marriage as an economic thing between two families, and more often than not the women didn't have a chance to deny that, didn't really have a choice, and then had no option to leave that marriage because divorce is legal and they just have their economic thing. So how can you defend that and ignore that within your region?
I did have a thing on that, I do genuinely promise, but as I kept denying their points, I was so rushed. And that was part of my point of how marriage evolves through generations, which is why I'm personally defending it as a concept despite being a non-binary feminist who would not take a man's last name, personally. But it's the fact that shows the fact that we've had such different concepts from different countries and cultures, and then it comes forward, and yes, marriage was at a time incredibly patriarchal. A man, a father giving away his virgin bride I was saying white dress, but white dress was started back in Victoria, but down the aisle and giving it, and then obviously the marriage handed over, and the fact that it was for contracts and alliances. But the fact that then we have then redefined marriage through the years, in the past 100 years, and redefined it so that it is a declaration of love, it is a declaration of devotion, and the fact that divorce is legal. And the statistic that the proposition brought up about the fact that there's 42% of them end in divorces, I personally don't look at that as a negative. I mean, that for me as a feminist is proof that now it is on more equal grounds. Do you know what I mean? That if you're unhappy with the relationship, you can end it. That 42% of people have thought that they have the freedom to be able to end their marriage and pursue something else. And the fact that marital rape was then defined in our law from 1998, which is a disgrace, it was 1998. But marriage has evolved, is my point. Marriage as an institution in our society has evolved through generations to be what it should have been from the start. Unfortunately, patriarchal 11th century, I think that mainly started here in Western society. It evolves, and it is still evolving, and that is why, in our opinion, it is not an outdated concept.
Proposition.
I mean, I would sort of point out the, in the nicest way possible, the mild incoherence of this side of, or that side of the table's argument, in that we have somebody saying, isn't it a great thing about the amount of divorces, and somebody who said it's for life, and it should be for life, and we shouldn't leave it, and we should fix ourselves and stop doing whatever it is that causes a divorce. But beyond that, anyway, regarding the question, is that, again, dividing the scope of the debate, but, how do I put this? It's a difficult one. Right, in that part of it, the sort of patriarchal element that existed, if marriage is a social construct, as you keep on saying, it's pretty damn hard to define, so much so that you can only get it by context clues, and again, you will both disagree on what they should be and what they are presently, but you can only get it by context clues, and I think that really speaks to the utility of what we have been trying to do the entire debate, and you have refused to engage us on, which is define the scope of it. If you cannot define it, except to say it's a social construct, how the hell are we supposed to have a coherent argument? You don't know what you're defending because you just say, well, it's the context. And we've given you an option for what you can defend, and you have chosen not to engage with it. So,
we'll have one last abstaining question, and then we'll end. Go for it.
Yes, well, Sam, I just want to say that, well, from what I could take from it, the motion of tonight's debate was sort of about the application of marriage in the modern age and whether or not it's necessary or desirable or whatever. And we seem to spend most of this evening discussing the Flintstones. And I just like to ask both sides, what is the application of this? How is this relevant? What cave people did or whatever? Fred and Wilma, I'm sure, don't try well. But what on earth has that got to do with everything that makes it?
Well, that comes back to the question of is it how much of marriage is human nature and how much of it is the law?
And in that distinction, we decided to take
it has to be somebody else from the opposition to respond first. You can't have two people from the side. Sorry, no. You can respond.
As someone who didn't go back to the prehistory, I was on the sweet Lord. Yeah. Yeah, no, genuinely appealing to prehistory for genuine debate is not a strong motion at all. I completely agree with that. I think you need to define exactly what is a marriage. So if I may interrupt, come and sit over here. There's much division here, because we're all flawed and self-centered.
And on that note, it's time to end. So we have a vote of speaker ability. That's too far. So this is not debating on what your opinion of the motion is. This is debating on how well you thought each side spoke. So if you think the proposition spoke the best, raise your hand now. I'm going to try and count these up. Somebody? I think Josie can do it. Don't want to start and get a wrong number.
I need help.
There's people behind the door.
Yeah. I can't see the back corner. Okay, we'll go 46. Those who thought the opposition spoke better, raise their hands now.
No, that's before marriage changed.
I got 22. Hey. Those who want to abstain on the motion. Twelve. Yeah, grand. So, Josie, can you read out the results, and then we'll have an announcement at the end. But can you read out the results?
So there were 46 votes for the proposition, 22 votes for the opposition, and 12 abstentions. So the proposition have it.
So before you all get up, Ryan is going to. Oh yes, sorry. Do you want to introduce our next bit for next week then?
So, as I said earlier, this house supports a general strike. We have one place on either side. It's looking to be a very fun
Don't be getting
one.
up yet.
I will be going to Lavery's, however, due to the fact that, as I've said multiple times, I have a kitten child, I will be leaving at 10 o'clock. So please, as soon as we get to Lavery's, I'll have the iPad out. If you want to sign up for this debate, or you can have a look at our Instagram turn card and for next debates, please let me know. Thank you.
Don't get up. Mr. McCormick, return to your seat, sir. You can do that in a second. So we're all going down to the pub in Lavery's. So Ryan will take you down there. Please lift any rubbish that you have, and if you haven't already signed up.
Also, if anyone has one of the chairs that's clearly not meant to be here, would you mind helping bringing them over to
Yes.
PSC?
So clean up all your rubbish and then leave with Ryan if you're going to the pub.